All right, hope everybody's doing good. We're back with another edition of KC Music Talk. Today I have a drummer in Kansas City, Bree Plaster. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you, Rob?
Pretty good.
Good to see you.
So
Hi,
I
everybody.
yeah. So I think I met you probably at Brian's gig.
Yep.
And I remember you were just playing drums and you were like keeping up with those guys easy, and I was
Those guys are crazy.
Yeah, they're a
Yeah.
cool band, but I remember watching you. You're just keeping up with them like nothing, and so I was definitely impressed. And so like when I was talking to Brian one time, I think he just in brief fashion just mentioned a little bit about your dad, that he played in the symphony, and knows a lot of people. Let's start this off. Like tell me a little bit about your dad and how he if he influenced you or whatever.
Oh yeah, he was a percussionist in the Kansas City Symphony for 45 years. he retired 6 or 7 years ago, right before the new hall opened, and so I mean he went to UMKC and played percussion, and then he ended up playing. He was an extra with the orchestra and got the job his senior year in college. And then he played gigs. He had a band. He played gigs around town, and but yeah, I grew up, and he would teach drum lessons at his home studio. So I'd sit at the top of the stairs and listen to drum lessons. And I went to every concert. He used to play all the Starlight shows, all the ballets, operas. I've been going to shows since I was not born yet. In my mom's tummy.
Right.
So
hearing it in utero.
Yeah, and just listening to drum lessons my entire life, in the house, and yeah, he's my biggest influence, and we're two peas in a pod, so we get each other.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, that has just plain been a theme on the show so far. Is that I've asked everybody, and they were like, "Well, music was accidentally in the home, like all over the place, and then all these people 30 years later are playing out in public, and there's got to be a correlation there."
Right. I mean,
think?
by osmosis, and just the feeling it gives you too. I mean, it's like, it's like if I grew up in a house playing sports, I'd probably be playing sports, but I didn't. So it is what you are, who you grow up with. It's how it works.
Sure.
And I'm just happy with music.
And you said he was a teacher too, right?
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, so I'm sure, just even listening to him talk about music and the verbiage and right? I mean,
yeah. And he was so cool because he was kind of a therapist to his kids too. And I could see, because he was just, he could go through the books and have any kid just playing like a monster. But he was also just asking what they did at school, or if they had a bad day, he knew how to make them feel comfortable, and they could ask him anything. And it was really fun to see my dad help a lot of kids get through that part of it.
Right.
Yeah, because some teachers are kind of daunting, but I saw the side of him where the kids really love to come hang out with my dad.
Sure, yeah. And that's like a thing that I have been thinking about lately, because I'm obviously teaching too, is the wanting them to play, but you have this whole other like kind of all the benefits that we all know about the non-musical benefits to music, and even just the sitting there being the role model,
it's a
big part, right? And I've been trying to balance that, because I love psychology kinds of stuff too, and so like I my problem is I know that most of the reasons why they can't get this right now is something psychological. That I can trace it back to something, and so I have a hard time that I want to talk about that, but now I'm like verging on life coach instead of music teacher.
So
what do you think of it?
You got to be lighter, kind of light about it, because if somebody is struggling, what I'll do is get their mind off of it. I'll ask what they had for lunch that day, and then magically they'll be able to play whatever what passage is, because I have a few students too, but you just get them off of whatever their path, because you can tell when their brain freezes up on a passage or whatever. So you just get them off of there for a minute. But my other most effective tool that I just came up with teaching is breathe. Just stop and relax and breathe. And then that is helpful too.
Right.
And to make it fun for them. Make it not so, and be positive reinforcement. Be like, that was so awesome. I know you can play it like perfect the next time.
Right.
And just being positive. Being positive and fun is such a big deal with lessons. Otherwise,
Yeah. Because the drill sergeant thing, I mean, we have
just
to have
doesn't work
some
with
of
us
that.
feeling
but
musician people. It doesn't
yeah,
work.
That's true.
Yeah.
And that's probably the whole key to it is you've got. I mean, if you don't ever do a scale, then they just suck 8 years later. They play the same, but they're never going to want to come back unless you have all that.
It's got to
right?
feel good too. I mean, and have confidence to be able to play, to learn the hard stuff, and when you can get the hard stuff down and be confident and have fun at the same time. It's a delicate balance.
Yeah,
it really is.
Yeah, and you said something else interesting too about just maybe the feeling that they have, the overwhelming feeling of they're freezing, or you were mentioning that they or getting frustrated or something, and so your thing is to just kind of get off of it for a second and then come back to it.
Talk about something completely different. If you just ask them what they have for lunch that day, you'll be amazed. When you get back, it'll just stop the. It's like with animals. Like you just gotta, like, if a dog's going for something, you gotta, like, tell the brain to do something else.
Yeah.
We are wired the same way.
That's interesting. Yeah. That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
So when you were young, like before you got into the gigging world, like what did you do to get up to that ability? Like were you taking lessons? What happened like before your 20s sort of, or whenever you started?
Yeah, I don't even remember exactly when it happened. I remember I wanted to be in school band, and I don't know, it was 4th grade or 5th grade, and I didn't know I had no idea what I was doing. But my mom played violin, and so I tried violin first, and that was a nightmare. I think it was like nothing wrong with violin. It was like 3 weeks in, I just was not very good at it as that kid. And so I just picked up some drumsticks, and Dad just kind of showed me some stuff, and then I was just in school band, and I just learned from Dad, And the funny part is I don't know how I took piano lessons younger, like 2nd grade. Okay. So I learned to read music playing the piano. So drum lessons with my dad were more like, we would end up laughing. Like if we play a duet together, we'd just laugh too much. So I ended up just having to wing it a lot because I already knew how to read music and I knew the deal. And anyway, so
yeah, no, that's
kind of funny.
See, that's the deal. Is another theme that I've had is that somebody did something like in 2nd grade, and then this progression keeps happening, and then maybe you try a violin, and it's like whatever, and then you finally find your love or whatever, and because that's the other thing too, is that you just mentioned it. I learned how to read, or you learned something about listening from your dad, just being around it, and then you had even more knowledge with the piano. Then, when you finally, what did that, what did you feel there was much learning curve at the drums when you finally got to the drum? You know what I'm trying to say?
Right. Well, then it just became, I don't know, it just kind of happened. Like I didn't really take lessons ever. Like, I mean, just from Dad.
Right.
I mean, when I just played in band and just kind of did it. Like it was it was not a normal way of doing learning. Yeah. But whenever there was something hard, I'd be like, "Hey, Dad, how's this go?" And he'd play it for me. I would have a hard time reading it, but if he could play it for me once, then I could play it perfectly. But so it was kind of a struggle not learning, the custom way of learning drums. It tripped me up a little bit in college and other things. Right. But I got through it.
Yeah, sure. But I think that's probably how old school people learned. 1820, 17, they didn't necessarily maybe get lessons, and they kind of just figured it out and had all this, like, what's the word, the osmosis from years of, and then all of a sudden, wow, and they just kind of,
and I just kept doing it because it was fun, and I was pretty good at it. And
that's cool.
Yeah.
So like, and so right there so you played in band, so tell me a little bit about band. What did you do? Because I know you guys don't just do trap, right?
Oh yeah, like from grade school, high school. I mean, grade school, like everybody's playing the snare drum or the bass drum. That's it. And so then high school, then your marching band, you playing the snare drum, cymbals, and playing orchestra. But I think now kids have to be able to play the bells, which I think is genius, because I think for drummers, new drummers out there should learn how to play piano.
Mm.
Because when you get into a band later on, or even if you don't, but you understand melody, you're not just
Yes.
doing the rhythms. And you
Yeah.
have to, if you're going to be playing with other people, you need to learn, you understand what melody is. So with band, I think that kids now, younger kids, have to play the bells too. So they have to learn,
Sure.
which I think is, piano's a percussion instrument, if anybody knows that. But yeah, so, but yeah, and then there was high school jazz band, which is where everybody started playing, the kit.
Yeah.
But there was too many drummers, but I know how to play piano, so I played piano all 4 years.
Oh.
So I never even took like drum set lessons
Yeah.
from my dad or anything. I just kind of did it.
Yeah.
And I think I was in a couple high school bands for a little bit, just on the side, but
That's
was it.
fun.
Yeah.
So, but that's kind of big. So even in high school.
Oh, wait. I have to go back.
Yep.
Junior high school, I was in the Itty Bitty Blues Band at school. I can't believe I forgot that. I had a teacher in 7th grade. He put together a little blues band, and that was the first time. It was the Itty Bitty Blues Band.
Wow.
John Seltzer put together an after-school blues program, and so that was the first time I actually played.
That's fun. So that was with the school, though. That wasn't on your own.
Yes, that was
necessarily.
with the school.
That's cool.
Itty Bitty Blues
So
Band. We even made a
even-
video.
Ooh.
Oh yeah.
So even at 7th grade, then you had already started your whole band, like in an actual
Right.
rock
Playing with a
blues
group of
kind of
folks.
style band.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, that's cool. And then high school, you sounded like you got a little bit more like experience or whatever playing in another. So they were like combo style, right? With like 4-piece or something,
Oh,
right? Yeah.
Yeah. And then like a couple rock bands here and
Right,
there,
right.
and sitting in, at weddings or whatever.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
Because I'm always fascinated. The big progression of what happens with anybody is, especially the public, is all they see is this monster on stage, shredding people's faces off, but they don't see all the stuff that happened
Right.
before then. The 19 bands this person was in until
Right.
they found the right one.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they don't understand how far that crap goes back.
Oh yeah.
You
And
know.
boy, if we all could just sit down and write a book, it'd be the best fun reads ever.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. So one thing that I've been fascinated by is kind of the role of everybody in the band, and especially with I'll give an example myself with our band. If I had like a 5-piece country band, there's kind of the rhythm section, and then my role is like totally different from theirs. My role, I view my role as like the color on top of this, the color of the train. I'm not the train, they're the train, but I'm like making this thing look really pretty. That's my point.
Yeah.
But so I'm really fascinated by like bass players and drummers about how they view like what they're supposed to be doing on stage. What do you think about when you're talking about like being the drummer in, let's say, a rock band or a blues band? What do you think about with that?
As far as the role, obviously to, keep everybody in line, with the rhythm and don't speed up or slow down. We're kind of the time keepers, kind of the mom keeping everybody on the playground. And,
With musicians,
it's,
They-
but
they need a
sometimes
mother
I'll get out
around.
of control. I'm sure over the years I'm like, oh man, I need to play with the metronome. I'm getting pretty good at all this time, but that's the primary thing that a drummer should do is make sure everybody's got a solid foundation to play off of. Because if they're back there just going blah, 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 like nobody, you gotta be able to feel the groove. Period. The drummer's got to set the groove, and and be able to rein people in if they don't know where they are. Set them up. If it's like, okay, we're at the end of the verse, and you set them up and just help people out. Like if they get lost, you know what I mean. That's a big deal too. Or like, hey, we're going to the chorus. Whack. Then one.
Yeah.
Like let it just kind of. We're all kind of there to just keep everybody on track.
Yeah.
But I also, the way I play, I like to be a lot of the color too.
Yeah, right.
And I play off of other people, just the tiniest little things. If somebody goes, the guitar player, do do do, and I'm like, I'll go, do do do, about subtle color too. I'm
Right.
just back there freight train in it.
Yeah.
You can have fun too and be color is just
Sure.
as well, and that's my favorite part is to be both.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, and I wasn't suggesting that I'm the only person.
Oh no, I didn't mean that. I was just saying.
Yeah.
As far as my role, I said put some color in there, but don't overdo it as a drummer.
Yeah, and that's kind of why I wanted to bring this up, is because that is a big thing. Like, and I've used this analogy before, is that one of my things is like fills, and you just mentioned fills, and so we'd have an 8-piece with steel, lead guitar, violin, rhythm guitar, bass, drum, and so on those little spaces, right, you have sing, 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 space, sing, 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 space. See, on those spaces, we got drummer filling, bass player filling, rhythm, lead, steel, and violin all filling on that little spot. And it's just, it's just nonsense, it's real messy and it's muddy. And so, I don't know what you feel about this. It's really like the drummers that are giving this monstrous fill like every 4 bars, and that drives me nuts.
Why are they working so hard?
Well, so my theory, and I'm not a drummer, you can correct me on this, but I adjust my playing for the different situations, so
yes.
You have like me and my buddy, guitar violin duo, there's a crap load of space there. I can play all the time and it's still not going to cover him up. But now I'm sitting in my 8-piece and I'm like playing 3 little spots the entire song, like at all. A solo and then 2 mini fill, and I'm out.
Yeah.
Or intro, solo, end, and I'm out. I literally am standing there the whole time because I'm trying to give them room. Like, do you adjust yourself for like what group you're in, or how do you look at that?
Oh yeah, you totally do. And it goes from me being a studio musician to being in like the Ruskin Quartet.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you have to play the music. You've got to play the room, and you got to play with the people. Like it is. You have to be intuitive with that. Otherwise, you're going to be like that person playing in the same, big fills all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But like studio musicians, if you ever listen to any recording, the drummer is just straight as an arrow, and the fills are like doom doom crash.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Mm-hmm.
That's it, because it lets the music shine. But he's putting the most tasty stuff where it needs to be.
Yes.
And when you're playing with just people who are doing it for fun, or art gigs, everybody likes to show off a little bit,
Sure.
because that's music. Egos. There's such a range, of ego, and I've seen it all over these years, and I really don't care. Like I don't think I have any ego at all. I'm just there to have fun and and I don't put up with people who do have egos. That's kind of hard, but you can deal with it. But yeah, I don't even know where are we going with that.
Yeah, but
I got lost in it.
With putting too many fills and that's one thing that
you got to be mindful of what's going on.
room
You got to listen to everybody is the key.
Mm-hmm.
Don't listen just to yourself, and don't listen for the next fill coming up. You got to listen to what everybody else is talking about. It's having a conversation, and everybody's like, whoa, 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 and you're like, no, man, just listen to what they said for a minute.
Right.
Just hang back and listen.
Yeah,
that's the most enjoyable part for me, is to hear somebody do something beautiful. Mm-hmm. Like, oh man, did you hear Rob play that? Whatever he did. It was awesome, man.
Right.
And I'll put a little crash into that because that was cool,
Yeah.
But it takes restraint when you want to just show your stuff, but sometimes that's not fun just showing off all the time. Play along, man. It's more fun to play along.
Yeah.
With the other people.
And that's one thing I will say about you, especially when I was watching you with Brian, is that you don't go plow over everybody, volume wise, and putting in 1,000 fills and like me, you don't play like that, and there's other drummers that do, but that was one thing that I wasn't impressed by listening to you, is that you just, you just do what you just said, is just don't play over everybody all the time.
I think being tasteful is a really wonderful place to be. And as a listener, I don't want to hear somebody playing over everybody either. Even if you're not a musician, you're like, what is going on up there? But being a musician, that's when I'm just like, oh, you try not to have like that face, like you're like, shut it. But as a listener, they don't want to hear that either. Listeners want to hear, everybody playing along together, not somebody showing off all the time and stepping on whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
So I mean, it's not just all about you, or it's not all about the band. It's about the listener. It's about the club owner.
Mm.
You know, unless you're playing in your basement, do whatever you want. But
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of other people that you're influencing,
Right.
and it should be in a positive
Mm-hmm.
way, not like look at me.
Yeah, that happens a lot. I mean, you mentioned the ego earlier. I was smiling and laughing. I mean, we have a lot of it. I mean, it's really hard to not have. It's really hard to not have this much of an ego when you're a person that performs.
Yeah.
But there's probably a balance there, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you got to have a little bit of it, but you know, we have so many people that want to make it me,
Mm-hmm.
and I think probably run into that a little bit where I try to be so hypersensitive to that I probably go too far the other way. And there's
Right.
times when I'm playing like a screaming solo that I need to take over. It's my time.
Yeah.
But then we're back on verse 3 and I need to back the hell off.
Yeah.
You know, like, so like, do you think there are probably some drummers that could actually come out too? I mean, there's all sorts of people in the world, I guess. Probably you would say would you say the problem that is more prevalent is people playing too much in general?
Yes.
Yeah.
And you know, and I want to go back and say, there's a lot of you can have confidence but not arrogance,
Yeah.
and I think that is a really important thing to think about.
Right.
You know, to be confident in your playing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you do the work and you're confident when you show up. You know, but ego takes over when you're like, oh, somebody's looking at me.
Yeah.
No, but you know, just be confident and have fun. You don't have to be arrogant too. You know,
Right.
but it's hard. You know,
I know.
there's as creative people. You know, I don't know what takes over. You know,
Yeah.
for us to feel that way. But oh my gosh, what was the question again?
No, yeah, that's it. But that's probably a better way to say it. That's what I was, I guess, trying to. The little tiny arrogance is probably not arrogance. It's probably
Yeah.
confidence. A better way to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I know I've just always been really fascinated by that, of people knowing when to play. You know, when you need to throw in this monstrous fill, or when you shouldn't throw in a
Right.
monstrous fill, or also what, like, do you ever, so let's think of another drummer question. So what I always find funny is when you have kind of a boom chuck type of a song, but I was thinking the other day that, I mean, you could throw a bossa over that.
Mm-hmm.
You could throw a real just march boom chuck. You could throw a train beat over that. Like, there's a whole bunch of stuff that
Yeah.
over
Oh,
this.
yeah.
You know, you know, what do you like? How do you figure out which one you need to do when nobody's really giving you direction?
You know, that's the fun part. And for me, I'll just let them play for a minute, and whatever I feel is what happens, and it always works.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's an intuitive thing or it's just a feel thing. And if you know, but I've met drummers. We're all so different. I've met drummers who need to know exactly what's happening.
Yeah.
Like, you tell me what beat to do. And I'm all like, cool, man, just start playing. I'm like, ooh, yeah, this. And it's just whatever feels best to me. You know, I'm a feel player. That's just how it is. But some people can't do that, which is totally fine because I can't do what they do. You know what I mean? But that's just, you have to find who you are in it. Like, if you need, like, hey, somebody, can you just tell me what you want me to play?
Yeah.
And that's more comfortable for them. But me, I'm like, whatever, man. I'm like all floaty about it. I'm like,
Right,
just start
yeah.
playing, and then, and if I do something, maybe I'll change it up if that doesn't work after a minute.
Right.
And but you just have to find out who you are in that. But that's how I do it. I'm just real loose about it, and I'll just kind of hear it almost immediately,
Right.
whatever it is.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I don't know.
That's because you're a listener and you're an ear
It's
player.
listening.
You know, I mean, you just listen real well.
Yeah.
The one that is hilarious to me when I go to jams, and the drummer, we basically set up a straight, and then he's like, "You mean da 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 da?" And I'm like, "No, motherfucker. You know, it is not a sway. We
Right.
are straight," and they just can't hear it.
Well, and there's also another thing, especially with jams like that. Not everybody plays a lot, and
Right.
sometimes maybe they only know a shuffle. You know what I mean? Like you really, especially when there's an open jam, like, yeah, they're not being mean. I've seen it. They're not being mean or disrespectful. They're like, they just don't know, like, how to switch it up.
Yeah.
And they get nervous and then train wreck, you know, in their mind. They're like,
they're
I just know a shuffle.
Yeah.
And so, especially at a jam, you just got to smile and be like, cool, man, we're going to play a shuffle right now and just deal with it. So everybody stays in it kind of comfortable, you know. I mean, if it's like a group you've been playing with for 10 years, you know.
Yeah, sure.
But if it's an open jam, you got to be a little more flexible, unfortunately.
Right.
But some drummers just aren't experienced. Like, I've been playing for over 20 years in a billion different kinds of bands.
Right.
But some of these guys show up to a jam and they like play like twice a year at a jam, you know. So you just, you know, you just gotta, you know, breathe through it and be as nice as you can and smile.
Right.
And be like, cool, man. And
like,
you know,
and
I don't think people are doing it on purpose. You know what I mean?
Right. And like another drummer thing that is funny to me is that because of my like conducting experience, I'm like hypersensitive and because probably I don't have to think about what I'm physically doing as much anymore. I'm going like, okay, we're on second verse. There's I'm sitting here in my head. Okay, second chorus. Then we have the bridge. Then it's guitar. So and I'm like da 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 da.
Right.
And everybody's up over here, and the drummer's like this, right? I'm like, dude, look up for your cue. You've been doing boom chuck for 5 minutes straight.
Right.
You've done just a couple of fills. You haven't really had to, there's no stops. You haven't had to do anything. At least,
Yeah, you gotta
the
pay
song's
attention,
done,
man.
like cueing and stuff is
Gotta
kind
pay
of
attention.
hilarious to me. That, I mean, like Brian's band, there's also his type of a band. I mean, there's all sorts of crazy like cues and stuff you got to be ready for with his stuff, right?
Oh, and that's what is the most fun is like, I mean, some people just have to like do their eyebrow a certain way, and I know what's happening.
Yeah.
And I know I was like, oh god, here we go, you
Right.
know. And especially for endings, especially at a jam, like keep your eyes open. If you drummer got to keep your eyes open. You got to stop the song. Like
Right.
you can't just keep playing. But to teach somebody that, I don't know how you do that without being like, dude, you're gonna need to pay attention. There's no nice way to say like.
Right, yeah. Because everybody cues a little differently too. Like you just mentioned the barely head turn thing, and then like I'll literally swivel my entire body, my eyebrows go up, and then, so there's no possible way they can miss it. But somebody like a Brian, after you guys have played, I don't know, 6 months in a row of the same song, and we all know that this big bridge is coming, and he'll. And it's that subtle, and everybody knows. Okay, boom, and that's fun, right? When everybody's on the.
Oh yeah, it's a blast, But that comes with just time, with a band.
Right.
And if you're like at a jam with 5 people you don't know, then hey, let's have fun. This might be a really weird ride,
Yeah.
And sometimes it's great, sometimes it's not. But everybody's up there doing it, which is my favorite thing.
Right.
Even if it sucked, at least they're out there doing it. So, you gotta put different hats on as a player when you're in situations like that. Like the Mama Ray Jam, like I gotta,
Right.
hey man, I just smile the whole time because it's blast. So you have no idea what's gonna happen. You have no idea who's gonna get up there. And you just play it, man, and you just look at everybody like, cool, are we done here?
Right.
Whack.
And that's what's cool about their jam is they, they threw a couple standards at me, which was fine. I knew them and whatever, and then the very next song you got 70 something, and then what's his face? Gary gets up there and does some, 40s, Righteous Brothers or something, whatever.
It's all over the map,
yeah.
and that's what's fun for me. All over the map, know what you're gonna get. That's exciting to me. Some people hate that, but I love that.
So what do you think about that of being a player that? See, I find that really, I don't like using this word empowering, but the for this, but like it's the idea of getting on stage and be like,
bring it.
What do you got?
Yeah, I love
40s
that.
Righteous Brothers. You got St. Thomas. Okay.
Yeah.
You got 70s rock tune that I've heard a couple of times. All right, let's
Oh yeah.
blues, Latin, country, I mean, isn't that pretty fun? I mean,
It's
to
a
be able
blast. To be a chameleon like that, like,
yeah.
and to have, you gotta have, all that basic stuff in your pocket though.
Right,
you can't just show up and be like, I mean, that's years of me learning all this stuff, because I used to suck at Latin. I mean, I still kind of suck at Latin. I'm a queen of BS. I can BS through any gig pretty much, except for I'd never be able to play a metal gig, but I can get through most anything because that's what sparks me, is kind of being scared about it. And then you do it. It's like writing a paper the night before it's due.
Right,
like I thrive on that. Some people do not do that. Some people like to be prepared, but I'm like, so it just depends on who you are as a drummer. You can do that or you can't.
Because stuff like samba, I mean, you can't just do that right now. I mean, that's pretty complex beat. It's tricky. I mean, you got to kind of have a little bit of the training beforehand, but once you do it, and you're like, I can handle this. I'm ready for,
right.
That's so cool to me. And you mentioned something a little bit ago about being flexible with other people, and that's one thing that I need to keep working on myself, because I'm always surrounded by so many really talented musicians, and that's one of the things that I need to keep remembering about open jams or about other players, is that when I'm in my lessons, like, I can handle a fifth grader, like, just kind of, figuring it out and kind of sucking a little bit and practicing or whatever, but there is something with me that happens when it's like a 40-year-old and they're doing that same thing. There's something with me that I just like lose all patience, and I lose, and
well, that sucks for you.
It sucks for me, and I know that that's like, there's some part of that I need to like emotionally like just get over and change, but that's so
I understand, because it's taken me many years to get over it, because it has nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with them. So, and I finally decided, like, in situations like that, I'm like, oh, this guy's such an ass, whatever. And I'm just like, I'm not going to let that person make me physically feel pissed off, because they are not worth letting my blood pressure rise. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it took a long time for me to be like, that dude ain't worth me freaking out over. He's just going to be like that. That's the way he is.
Yeah.
Good for him.
Right.
That is the only way you're going to get through it, because I just won't allow any, especially musicians, we're also fragile, and we're so reactionary when somebody doesn't give a crap, or if they're being stupid or showy-offy. It's hard not to react to that. And it's just, but I don't let them do it anymore. They don't get to do that to me.
Right.
That's how I had to kind of internalize it and be like, dude,
you want control over your own emotions.
You have to. Else it's going to consume you, and the whole rest of the gig will suck.
Yeah.
It's not. I just don't let people like that get to me. You just can't. You can't, especially with music, because music's such a feel. Like, I do it. It feels so good, but I'm not gonna let it ruin. A couple people mess it up for me.
Yeah, and I'm definitely gonna keep kind of working on that, because we have all these different moments. Because like, you go into a jam and it's like a whole different thing, right? I mean, these people, first of all, aren't in your band, and there is a acknowledgement that this jam is not for Miles Davis right now. I mean, this is for amateurs, and they're practicing, and hopefully they're taking that attitude of, I'm a like learning student right now, like mentality wise, that I'm coming to this jam, I'm trying to get better, I'm actually going home and practicing myself. So you're hoping that all of us sucked at one point, right? So you got to give them, you got to give them some leeway. That people haven't played, 30, 20, whatever years like we have. So you got to give them flexibility. But so now let's move that same type of idea of what happens when you're like in a band with that person, where, and now you have kind of a different...
years later.
Yeah, or even months later or whatever, when, you have any random thing that's wrong. Like, this guy has, is not cueing, or this guy is whatever the thing he is doing that's... So here's the question: is what is the deal breaker for you? Is kind of where I'm trying to roll my philosophical head with this, because like, so for an example is, this band leader picks like 3 out of 50 songs that you really don't like, as far as I'm concerned, that's probably not a deal breaker for the band. You know, but
Right.
you have like another guy in an extreme example this is the third gig in a row he's fallen off the stage because he's too drunk, right?
Right.
That's a deal breaker.
Yeah,
You got
the
to cut
obvious
him
deal
or
breakers.
leave or something.
Yeah.
When you're not seeing eye to eye with somebody in a band like that, what is your deal breaker, or how do you like handle stuff like that?
Yeah, that's a tough one for people, but I mean, there's certain things that when I was first starting to play in bands, you know, like 20 some years ago, where you kind of put up with more, just because you're like, you're like, oh, I'm gonna play this shithole bar.
Yeah, I know, right.
You know, you just do. You just do it because you don't know that there's something more than that. You're like, well, I'm just doing this. We're playing out. This is awesome. But then you get old like me, and you're like, okay. So if I have been so lucky to be able to play with people that are like family to me. Like, I guess, you know, I never got to a place where I was like, God, this person sucks, or that musically that's not working, because I wouldn't stick around. I wouldn't stick around. I would just be like, this is not working for me. It's just like any human relationship. If it's musically not working with a person, I mean, in the beginning playing, I would put up with it, but not after all these years.
Yeah.
I mean, if somebody's being a certain way, you know, if it's not my band, I'm filling in or whatever, I don't have to say it.
Yeah.
But if it's my band, then I'm going to leave it. I will be out of there.
Yeah.
And that's just, you can't do that if that's your livelihood. I'm fortunate enough, I have other ways I make a living too. It's not just music, which I think has made it easier for me to do that. And plus, I don't ever want to step on anybody's toes or hurt anybody's feelings. Because it just, what if the gig's not working, you know, and I have a really hard time telling people, you know, like, it's because you're a jerk and you play like ass.
I know.
I'm not going to say that.
Yeah,
I will just remove myself from the situation.
Yeah.
And that's what's worked for me, because most musicians aren't very confrontational. We're too wussy to be like, but I've seen some who are, and that's not fun either.
Extreme opinion.
But I just remove myself from the situation. I mean, even if I like the other players, sometimes when you hit a wall, you hit a wall. So there's so many combinations of things to do.
Yeah.
But for me, I don't ever want to feel that way, so I move on.
Right, and so like I know just me personally with my students as well, I've been contemplating this idea of how much control do I have over whatever, you know, over a student, over a band, over another person, etc. And obviously going through my 20s, you know, I was, you know, just wrestling with this concept of how much control do I have over this situation, and obviously wanting to have a lot more control than I have over the situation. And so that's where I've been. And obviously in my 20s, what I was feeling was that, okay, so you have your two options. You do whatever you need to do to tell the person X, Y, and Z, nicely, not nicely, whatever. Maybe nothing happens. Or you just leave, you know, and you throw up your hands like this, and you're like, okay, well, I'm just, you know, a give up quitter now, and you know.
You gotta talk about it though. I mean,
right, and
you have to bring it up. But if, like you said, if nothing, either they change or they don't, that's when you decide what you're gonna put up with or not.
Right.
That's hard.
I know, it's a really hard question. One of the, like I told you before we started, one of the questions that I wanted to get some answers to here for just personally for myself is, because that felt like, because what I wanted the argument to be about, and this is more of a life lesson thing of dealing with people, I guess, is like, what I wanted the point to be about is, I might be able to drop my 470 page book about why I'm right now, you know, on this situation, and you know, that is irrelevant, you know, it's irrelevant, and maybe that's you know, definitely I've realized that in relationships before, you know, it doesn't matter, you know,
a band's like a
intimate relationships where it's like, it's kind of
relationship.
irrelevant if you're right now, you may be, but, you know, it matters. And so I just felt like that what I wanted the point to be about is that they haven't changed. Right. You know, I wanted that to be the point. I understand differently now, but the solution that I keep hearing from people is you go find like-minded individuals and you just move on.
And that's really all you
And
can
I'm
do.
like, ugh,
Because
you know, like,
at the end of the day, I'm not going to change. You're not going to change. You know how hard it is for us to change, for somebody else to change?
Mm-hmm.
It's just not going to happen, really. I mean, you can discuss
It's not
it.
going to happen today, probably, for sure. Yeah.
And eventually maybe, but yeah, I mean, you really have to find people that you gel with, and, you know, that's really it, you know. It's, I mean, unless you need the money and you can just put up with things.
Right.
That, I mean, it's very circumstantial, but I don't know. I don't put up with bullshit.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And that is a huge
it doesn't feel good. So why would I do that?
Right. And that is obviously this huge elephant in the room of the fact that we make this our living, you know, and so that's another thing that we've talked about in the show a lot is how musicians handle that dichotomy where we're kind of around making our $100 a gig in Kansas City, and it's not terrible, but it's you know, maybe you could get your couple 7 students, and then but first of all you have all this time left in your week, and I mean, wouldn't you agree that pretty much every single one of us has our day job, you know? And
and
talk about that.
Well, I think, you know, my dad never really had it, you know, he was a musician, but he played like a billion different kinds of music, you know, different venues and blah, blah, blah. But I never wanted to make music my full-time job, and it wasn't from anything that they told me. My dad was never like, oh, you can't be a full-time musician. They never did that. They were just like, be free and do what you want, and we'll support you. But I knew music was so important to me emotionally that I never wanted to get mad at it for not making me money. And so you have to make that decision to where I've tried a billion jobs in my life, and I have a really, you know, I found who I am and what I do for a living really works. And music is a big part of it, you know, but I have other things that make me money. And that it just works out better, so you're not so frustrated about music, because music is a very volatile situation. And, you know, I think my dad back in the 60s was just making as much money as we're making now. It's just not going to get any better or different, probably. So it's good to have another job to do. Plus, you know, you won't get burnt out on music. I mean, it's a win-win. That's true. But make sure it's a job, you know, that's not going to, you know, burn you out. So when you go play your gig, you're like, well, you know.
Yeah, that's true.
You got to find a balance. But I tell my niece and nephew, I say, keep trying things until you figure it out. Because I didn't stop. I mean, I was a flight attendant. I was a bartender. I was like, I want to try this. I want to try this. And then you find something that allows you to play music too.
Right.
You know.
Because that's a huge life lesson right there. You may not know at 20 years old. You know.
I had no freaking idea what I was doing when I was 20. But give yourself a chance and don't just settle.
Right.
That's my advice to anybody in their 20s. Don't settle for what's going on right now, because there's a billion other things you can choose. You know?
That's interesting. And the other thing that you said that was good is about when you're in the band, if you have that other huge day job, I mean, this is a huge amount of flexibility you have. Now you don't have to obviously take that crappy situation.
Right.
You've got this huge other thing, and that's definitely something that I've been running into with students, for example, is wanting a certain, at least up to a baseline of quality of a student. You know, baseline interest from the parents, baseline interest from the kids, and there's a whole, you know, range in there. But the kids that really hate this, and the parents are just making them, but because I need the money, I don't get to set my little, you know, set my standard there. I can't have a standard because I need these 4 extra students.
We're all gonna have stuff that we don't really like.
Sure.
I mean, if you can, the way I define success is if what you're doing 90% of the time is awesome, and there's 10% of crap that's gonna suck for all of us. Hopefully, it's not, you know, half and half. But if those few students that are frustrating are minuscule compared to the ones that are awesome, I mean, I really have to, perspective is humongous, because one person will ruin my day out of all these other amazing things that happen during the day. And I have to stop every day. And I'm peace, love, and joy. I try to be peace, love, and joy all the time, because that's who I am. But man, when I really think about like those couple students that are frustrating and their parents or whatever, like that might be this much of it when there's all this other awesome.
Right.
Take the money, man. If you gonna make a couple bucks, have a couple little snotty kids, you know? Just, it's not all gonna be perfect all the time.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
I do things sometimes I don't want to do, but for money, but a gig or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, it's hard to be choosy, but I'm making it work for me.
Yeah, that's good.
But man, I have worked my tail off to get here.
Yeah. Yeah. So, last couple things here. One thing that I think probably, if people were paying attention to this, is they notice that there's not, if there usually is females in bands, it's a lot of lead singers. You know, you see a lot of that actually, but with all the other players in the band, I think that's probably one thing that maybe other females would admire about you, is being a drummer. And do you have any thoughts on kind of any, you know, females in the music scene, or why there isn't as many males, or you have any thoughts on that?
You know, when I was a kid, I never thought about it that way. I just knew that Sheila E. was the only one I could look up to. She was it for me. Because, I mean, but I grew up just loving drummers. I never really thought about it until I started getting in band. Like, I was like, I'm the only chick around here, which is fine, because I love hanging out with the guys. Guys are way more fun sometimes to hang around with. you know, I'm just kind of like a tomboy, and it's just more fun, and we learned a lot from each other. But I was kind of the only girl around playing drums, especially back in the 80s, you know, in bands. But so I go to school band concerts of, you know, drum students or whatever, and there's tons of girls back there playing drums.
Sure.
So it's just, you know, it just like a lot of jobs. Music is a man's world at the end of the day. Like, you go to a recording studio, you know, but when, you know, not that, but you, I mean, there's so many women in music over the years, studio musicians. You know, you know, there's been female musicians forever and ever and ever doing amazing things. And, you know, it's just like on the news, we get to hear all the negative crap, but we don't get to see the good stories. You know, like, so I don't know why they don't really showcase women musicians. They are now, and a lot more women are playing music and playing in bands, and I see a lot more girls wanting to play the drums. Like, I have, you know, I've had 2 girl drum students. I'm like, right on. And but it's one of those, I've walked into a club my whole life. I'm like, oh, are you carrying your boyfriend's drums? I heard it all. I walk into like a drum shop. Not here in Kansas City. Explorers is awesome. But any other town, they're like looking at me like I'm an idiot, you know. And I'm like, you have no idea, like, you know, that I know what I'm talking about, you know. So, but I kind of got over it. Like, I don't let it affect me, you know. There's like, wow, you really can play. I'm like, cool, thanks, man. Because it's not, I mean, what else am I going to do? I'm not going to get mad. And I'm just going to show up and play the gig and freaking play the gig. And know what I'm doing. I'll show up on time. I'll play the gig as, you know, as best I can.
People notice.
And,
you know, they'll notice.
If you can just show up and play your gig, it doesn't matter. I'm a drummer. That's what I am. But, you know, but it's inevitable. If people are going to, you know, I'm a girl drummer to a lot of people. That's fine. That's, you know, whatever works for you. I don't care. I think that's the best thing as a woman in this world, is like, you have to get to a point where you just don't care. Not in a bad way. You're just like, yeah. But, you know, when you can get up there and play the gig and just walk off the stage going, told ya. You know, it was almost, for me, it was more empowering to be a woman at drummer, because it gave me, because I like a little bit of a challenge. And so I was like, oh, you don't think I can play, do you? You know? So, but I don't ever, you know.
But it's not a sticking it to them afterwards kind of an attitude that
it's
some
just
people
kinda
might
like,
have.
No, I'm not sticking it, you know. But it's more of a fun game. Like, it's just the way it is, you know. It's, you know, it's a lot better now than it used to be, for sure.
Because, like, and I would make a huge difference between, like, Billboard and then, like, the Kansas City, like, local scene, you know? Because Billboard, there's a ton of I mean, they have tons of female singers on, you know, the charts and stuff. But in the Kansas City scene, they're just, you know, not as many. Candace is another, I don't know if you know Candace.
Candace.
You know, good player, you know, and there's people around. And I was thinking too, even in orchestra and band, there's girls everywhere.
Yeah.
You know, it's pretty 50-50, I would say, especially and so this is a funny thing that my mom was noticing is that, so back in, like, I don't know, freshman year or something in orchestra, she was noticing that it's maybe like two-thirds female, one-third male in orchestra. Mm-hmm. But what's funny is when you get out into the pro scene, it almost it's not even opposite, but it's more like a 50-50 or worse, you know? Right. So she was trying to feel like maybe there's a correlation of some of the guys have a higher percentage of seriousness in there. I don't know if that would be true or not. I don't know how you'd be able to judge that through a study or something, but that's what she got out of those numbers of analyzing that, is that there's a higher percentage, but the guys that are in it have a higher percentage of really in it, really committed. So I don't have any, I don't have any evidence for that.
There's probably so many reasons.
But yeah, But I was just noticing that, and also maybe it is true too, something about the actual music that we're playing, because what I'm usually playing is rock, blues, jazz, and that'd be different from orchestra. Mm-hmm. It's just a different, and a perfect example would be orchestra, heavy metal. I mean, just kind of a male-female thing is kind of just different there. There's more interest in heavy metal from the male side, and it's more half or something.
Right.
I don't know.
And I never feel weird about that, because I'm cool. Like, we are different animals. I mean, the way we feel about things. Men and women are just different in the way we approach stuff.
Yeah.
And, like, I hear metal, I'm just like, I'm like, it's so angry.
I do too sometimes.
No, but whatever floats your boat. But I know a lot of women who love metal, So, I mean, it is all over the board. Like, music is one of those things that you can be who you are and love whatever music you want or whatever instrument you play. Mm-hmm. And you can be that person. Like, there is no stigma, I don't think. I mean, for people who maybe not be in the industry or are not musicians, they'll put something on you, but you can be whoever you want, and that's what I love about music.
Yeah.
You could be exactly who you want to be.
That's cool. Yeah, you're right.
I mean, where else can you do that? Mm-hmm. There's not really a lot of places you can do that, except for entertainment business, especially music. Yeah. You can wear whatever you want. You can do your hair wherever you want. You can do freaking whatever you want, man.
Drink
How freeing
is
that? Yeah.
Yeah.
But don't be a jackass and be a professional and show up on time and don't get drunk. Yeah. You gotta play the game too. But you really, if you play your cards right, you can be who you want to be and play with the people you want to play with.
You're right. And
it just enrich your life instead of being a pain.
That's cool. Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. Mm-hmm. So to finish up here quick, can you think of a crazy moment in the music business, or a funny moment, or a completely horrible moment, or any kind of story? Or
I haven't had a lot of horrible moments, so I'll be happy to tell you. But I will say, and this is a good one. My dad, the Moody Blues were coming to play at Sandstone. This was in '97 or something, and I was waiting tables at Grand Street Cafe in the Plaza, and my dad's like, "Hey, we need an extra drummer. You want to come play the Moody Blues show?" Because they had an orchestra backing them. I was like, "Oh yeah, so I'd love to." It was like summer, everybody's on vacation, so they needed. So my dad hired me. It was the first gig I got to play with my dad in that capacity, backing up the Moody Blues. And so I was waiting tables at Grand Street Cafe. The band comes in for dinner the night before the show. The Moody Blues coming to Grand Street, and here I am. I had blonde hair. I think it was permed at the time, and I'm waiting tables, and I go up. I'm like, "Oh, I'm playing with you guys tomorrow at Sandstone." And they're like, "This chick is out of her gourd." They're looking at me like, "This blonde ditzy waitress is crazy." And I was like, and then I started reading off the set list. I was like, "Yeah, man, I can't wait to blah, blah, blah." And it was hilarious. They just thought I was crazy. So anyway, next day rehearsal, before the show, we had a rehearsal during the day, and they walk up, because we do all rehearsal, and then they come in to do just the final. And they look up at me. I'm like, "Hi." And they're like, "Oh, it's that chick." Anyway, so that was funny, but it was a really memorable show that I got to play with my dad, and it was one of the best gigs I ever played. And he gave me and Dad let me play the gong part of Nights of White Satin at the very end, where you get to go, "Wow."
That's fun, yeah.
So as far as a really cool gig, that was it. I got to play with my pop, and we had a great time.
That's cool, yeah.
Yeah.
And that is just hilarious. And I've seen this so many times, especially at blues jams, when you walk in and you just, you kind of look at a guy and you're like, okay, some random guy. And then he gets up on stage and you're like, how'd that come from?
Yeah.
He starts just shredding the crap out of it. And you were mentioning how sometimes, or I guess maybe I was thinking about, like those first impressions, and I probably wouldn't be in the exact same boat, but I kind of probably dealt with that a little bit when I got into town just because of my instrument choice.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely going to blues jams specifically, and people are like, oh, violin, right.
Right.
Really?
And you still hear it,
Yeah, and so I know what I can do, and I get up there and do whatever I do,
And it's great,
and
yeah.
it's fine and whatever, and so, but that's, definitely a good lesson to don't judge a book by its cover, but also, I kind of don't blame people either. They haven't, name me a funk violinist. You can't, because I can't name one,
Yeah.
nobody, that's
Yeah.
not a thing, so like, and so that's something that I don't blame them, at least on my end. I can't,
yeah.
say on the female end, but just on a violin coming into funk,
That's cool, man.
it is pretty cool, but I don't blame people for, having that first
Yeah.
impression. It's just...
Hey, and they can have it, but you get up there and you're thinking, they're like, that was really
you change
cool,
their
man.
mind, yeah.
And if they still think it's weird, cool, that's on them.
Right.
I'm sorry you feel weird. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just don't mind. I don't mind them getting done and they don't like it.
Yeah.
That's different from them watching and going like, yeah, I played 30 years, and you know it. You just heard me. You know that I can at least play this thing. It's just now a preference difference, and that's just is what it is. You just don't like it, so fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's cool. Yeah, I don't know. I guess 2-minute answer if you want. What's the best piece of advice you would give to like a younger gigger, like 20-ish, 20s-year-old person that's getting into this gigging scene?
Right. Okay. You have to have an open mind.
Mm-hmm.
Be responsible, show up on time, learn the material before you get there. Just be prepared, because it feels better to show up prepared to a gig. They're like, oh, we're going to play these tunes. Freaking listen to the tunes. Don't just show up and like think you can play through it, because some songs have breaks and stuff you got to know. So just know your stuff, and be kind to others, because we're all in the same boat trying to make cool music, and if we mess up, we be nice to each other and don't step on any toes and listen.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I always told my drum students was, sometimes you're playing in a band that's not necessarily your favorite. Like if you're playing in a blues band, you're like, this is so boring, you're like... But I've told my drum student, like one time we were playing something, this simple beat, and she's like, ugh. And I'm like, here's what you sound like. And I played like her. And I played the exact same beat, and I played it like I meant it. And I was like, she's like, it sounded completely different. It was the same thing. I was just playing like I meant it.
Yeah.
Play it like you mean it. If you're bored to death back there playing this blues gig or whatever, everybody's going to feel how boring, and this is boring, you're bored, and this is boring, and I hate it. But if you're back to going, like, this is the best gig I've ever played,
right.
then the energy's going to change, and everybody's going to love it. So that would be my advice for anybody starting out. Don't act bored. Be prepared.
Right.
Play like you mean it.
Yeah.
Be prepared, and be open-minded and nice to each other, because
we're
all very emotional in music,
Yeah.
and that's just the way it is. So
that sounds like an attitude difference,
uh-huh.
right? You played with bored attitude, or no matter what song this is, I'm gonna play it awesome attitude, right?
Yeah, like I can play Twinkle Twinkle Little Star
Mm-hmm.
the exact same way with a different attitude, and you'll be able to hear the difference.
Oh, yeah.
It's so bizarre. People don't believe it until you do it.
Yeah.
And then you go, and you're like, oh my god, it's amazing! It's awesome. It's the best Twinkle I've ever heard. Anyway, it's a big deal. So that's something you could do to your students, like, if they're like blah blah blah, you like to play it like you mean it.
Yeah, right.
You don't have to like play it like a rock star, but
Right.
just play it like you give a crap.
Right.
It's a big deal. People will notice.
Yeah,
the difference.
I've heard a lot of people talk about that even recently on the shows, that like, and I think that's what happens even at a jam, is that they call a weird tune and you're like, you know what, I'm gonna, Scotty McBee said this, I think, when he got on his show is that he was like, I'm gonna play the crap out of this Mustang Sally.
Yeah.
I hate this song, but I'm gonna make it the best Mustang Sally you've ever heard.
That's why I love Scotty.
You know, yeah. And that's my attitude. Even though I hate this song, I'm gonna shred your face off, and I'm gonna I'm gonna make this a good song, even though I hate it. You know. And,
that's the attitude.
Right.
And you know how much fun he had doing that? Probably a lot.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because he's probably laughing his ass off while he was shredding Mustang Sally.
Well,
you gotta amuse yourself too when you're totally bored.
Well,
but you know, it works for everybody.
He just drops, you know, Dazed and Confused in the middle of it. You know, I mean, he's quoting a million songs and stuff to amuse himself. Mm-hmm. But Scotty's an awesome. Most views we've had on the show so far.
Yeah,
his interview was good.
And I told you we went to band camp when we were 14 years old at Katy Band Camp.
That's funny.
I've known Scotty for a while.
Yeah.
He has way surpassed me on a lot of levels. Musically. He's a great monster, and I love him. And he's such a good dude and amazing player. Yeah. So, hi, Scotty.
That's cool. What's up, Scotty? You're still a turd. But anyway, so, well, there you go. And you are, like you said, are you playing a lot with Mama Ray at her jam, or are you kind of coming in and out, or how's it?
I'm there once a month. She has a handful of drummers that we rotate.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I play with Heather Thornton trio.
Oh, okay. Yeah, cool.
So I'm playing with her a few times a month, and I play with a band called Kathleen Kunkler and the One Night Stand Band. It's an all-female project.
Cool. Yeah.
And everybody's got day jobs, like real day jobs. And this is just a really fun project. We get together and do benefits. We're doing like the AIDS Walk benefit coming up in a couple months. Mm-hmm. They're raising a bunch of money for that, and then whoever gives me a call, I'll go fill in or whatever. And yeah,
that's cool.
So I just freelance, but I don't play a whole lot anymore because you know.
Well, 3 bands.
Well, it used to be like 7.
All right.
No, I used to kind of spread myself thin a little bit, so I get I'm reeling myself in a little. So I'm not so tired.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I don't got anything else. I think that's the show.
Fun.
Yeah.
That was fun. Thanks for having me, Rob.
This is a Bree Plaster, drummer here in town. So we will be back next time with another edition and back with some more people talking about music stuff. So thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Peace out, everybody.
Yep.
Have fun.
Take it easy. Get out of here.